In the FY22 budget, the government had rolled out the 2 lakh crore PLI schemes for 14 sectors. How have these schemes performed so far? And also, what have the impact been of government schemes over the last 5 years? Joining us to talk about this all is the DPIIT Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining us. 2 lakh crore was the overall outlay of the PLI schemes for 14 sectors. How much has been disbursed so far?
So the incentives so far cumulatively is about 5,500 crores that have been disbursed. But that isn't the nature of the scheme, because the incentives are meant to be disbursed at the back end. The incentives are only 5,000 crores. The amount of investment that has come in so far is almost 1,06,000 odd crores. Incremental sales so far, the sales so far under the PLI scheme is about 9 lakh crores. Exports are about 3 lakh crores. So yes, the scheme has had a big impact across these 14 odd sectors. More so in certain sectors like mobiles, mobile manufacturing, electronics, food processing, pharma. These are the areas which have moved faster. There are others which are where they are in the gestation period. So we might see some more traction there in the coming years, like white goods and automobiles, solar modules. In textiles and steel, there is some tweaking required perhaps to ensure that these lead to higher subscription and faster growth.
There has been a tepid response to schemes such as the IT hardware, auto components, textiles, ACC battery storage sectors. What more needs to be done, and what are some of the gaps that you've seen which has led to lack of interest?
Well, of course, you have to do a sectoral deep dive to get into the specifics of what a particular scheme might have or might require in terms of improvements, flexibility, etc. But in general, in certain cases, flexibility requirements, including change in product lines, expanding the definition, increasing the tenure of the scheme, and in certain cases, lack of subscription due to lack of appetite in the market, which we hope will change once we carry out these tweaks that I've mentioned.
Which are some of the sectors where new PLI schemes could be launched?
Well, I mean, as of now, the intention is that we focus on completing these existing PLI schemes well, which is these 14 sectors across 10 departments. Overall, as I mentioned earlier, the response has been quite good. It has been quite transformational in some sectors, particularly in sectors like pharma, medical devices, electronics and mobile manufacturing, to a great extent even food processing, where there's a lot of interest across the country, particularly from MSMEs. So yeah, I mean, it's at least the majority of the schemes have probably seen very good response. White goods is another one which has seen a very good response.
We believe that the incentive SOPs are yet to be rolled out. There has been a delay in disbursement of incentives as well. Only 3 or 4 companies have so far qualified for the DBA criteria. Any tweaks that the government is considering in order to make sure that the disbursements can be faster, maybe on a quarterly basis, and more companies can qualify faster?
Yes, you're right. I mean, in the sense that there have been some cases where the claims made have led to certain queries being raised about the quality of the paperwork and all that. And that has created some discomfort, and therefore maybe in certain cases the processing has not been as fast as it ought to be. The government and the beneficiaries have to work together to ensure that that process improves. What government is hoping to do in the future is to increasingly create a situation where quarterly disbursement of incentives takes place. We are also looking deeply at the SOP itself and trying to ensure simplification where required. And finally, on the specific issue of the auto PLI, my understanding is that several companies in different categories have now met the investment threshold. The SOP will hopefully follow shortly, but I don't think the incentive claims as such have started coming in there. I don't think the SOP will prevent us from meeting those incentive claims. In the case of white goods, which is done directly by DPIIT, we rolled out the entire disbursement for the current year, about 65 crores. We actually released about 71 crores on the basis of the claims made. So it's not it's something that we are closely tracking, and we intend to ensure that business gets the incentives that it has claimed to in a reasonably quick fashion. Incentives claims being disbursed on a quarterly basis is something we are working on, because we have found that in those PLI schemes where the incentive claims were given on a quarterly basis, generally the claim disbursal cycle was a little faster and better. So we advised all departments to try and adopt that. On the issue of DVA norms, etc., the DVA norms is relevant in some schemes. It is not relevant in others. It's particularly relevant in automobiles, for example, also in white goods. The norms are not particularly difficult, but in certain cases they need tweaking. For example, in the case of white goods, we had to make some clarificatory changes in the definition to ensure that business did not find any constraints, and that has been quite successful. In the case of automobiles, I don't think the DVA as such is so much of an issue. It is a question of of companies being able to rise to that threshold.
What is your expected outcome on further Capex deployment by industries due to PLI schemes in FY25 and going forward?
So when these proposals went before the government, the cumulative investment that was being targeted was about 3 lakh crores. So we've achieved about 1/3 of what we set out to do. In 9 out of the 14 sectors, the investment targets so far have either been already met or exceeded, particularly in areas like electronics, mobile manufacturing, pharma, etc. In many others also, the yearly target so far has been met. There are a few which are a little behind. Other targets, or rather projections that were made, were in areas like employment, in terms of overall sales, etc. All those are frankly on track right now in a cumulative fashion, even though in terms of individual schemes there are ups and downs among them. So broadly, I would say again that investments are on target, sales are on target, and even employment generation largely is on target based on the original projections that were made. Target up to 22-23 for employment was 4,25,000 odd employment. What was achieved in up to 22-23 was 3,66,000 employment. For the 23-24 period, the target was 1,91,000 jobs, out of which till December, and we, of course, 3 months, we've just now ended the financial year, but I have figures only up till December. Till December, the figure achieved against the target of 191 was 1,27,000 employment. The cumulative achievement is 4,93,492 against the cumulative employment projection of about 30 lakh. So even that is cumulatively on track, but there are shortfalls or overachievement in certain sectors.
Okay. Shifting focus to some of the recent schemes which have been launched by the DPIIT, starting with a new EV manufacturing policy to give duty concessions to companies which make a certain investment commitment to the country. Now, this policy has been notified. What has been the kind of response you've seen over the last few weeks since the policy was notified?
I think what we've seen is that the government has tried to kind of thread the needle here in terms of ensuring that all stakeholders are consulted, and we take a view in the public interest in rolling out a policy that is not specific to any particular enterprise or company. And it tries to sort of balance the interests of all the stakeholders. I think the response overall across industry has been positive. I don't think there has been much of a backlash or worry about this policy causing any kind of disruption.
So, but there has been a lot of word about Tesla setting up shop, and we hear there could be an announcement soon. Are you confident about them as a company? Because this duty reduction for a limited period of time was one of their key demands.
I would only say that the policy has been well received by all quarters, including the companies that are outside, as well as many of the companies inside India who initially may have had reservations. Most of them have at the end of it, now that the policy has seen the light of the day and now that they've seen the details, most of them have accepted and welcomed the policy, including, both those who are not present here and those who are already present here.
Right. I'd like to ask you, will there be any kind of threshold or criteria as to where you can actually import from? For example, if a company which is making an investment commitment wants to import from its plant in China, can they do so?
We haven't, see, as of now, there is no, restriction on import from China per se. You would have seen BYD vehicles are already on the road after paying the relevant, import duties. So we've not, the only restriction that exists in India is on the investment side, where we have Press Note 3 and we have a restriction on land border countries. So yeah, FDI from that area is difficult. Imports from that area is theoretically possible under the present regime. Whether we'll necessarily keep it that way, I can't take a call. But as of now, under our existing policies and regulations, imports, there is no restriction on imports as such.
The BJP government has completed 10 years in power. If we were to ask you about the next 10 years, according to you, which sectors are you most bullish about and which you think will really drive the investment and the private capex cycle, according to you?
DPIIT, focuses on manufacturing by its very nature. We are very bullish about manufacturing growing fast now, finally achieving its potential in India. We've been growing at double-digit plus growth rates in the last 2 quarters continuously. There is significant capacity utilization and private capital formation is going to sort of increase. Our consumer penetration rate, whether it is in e-vehicles, whether it is refrigerators and air conditioners, all of those are very, very low by global standards. So in all of these areas, in electronics, in mobiles, in white goods, in pharma, in all of these areas, you're going to continue to see sustained double-digit growth, which will hopefully propel India's share of manufacturing in its GDP up from the very stagnant kind of position that it has been over the last few decades.
And that will be the push of DPIIT as well, manufacturing as much as we can.
Yes, that is our most important sort of goal right now, to really propel manufacturing, create high-quality jobs and exports for our country.
Right. So thank you so much for speaking to us.